So basically, we're like, why does God not intervene, stop these things? And I personally, I've looked into this enough to know I would not bring up the problem of evil as some, like really great argument. I don't think it's a great argument against God. I think there's like satisfying-ish answers regarding it. I wouldn't bring it up. But throughout the Old Testament, yes?
Do you mind just going to the question, if you would?
Sorry about that. So throughout the Old Testament, there's plenty of examples of grand theatrical examples of God answering prayers, directly preventing evil from befalling his people, the Israelites. And I kind of like, I know it's played out, but I look at the Holocaust and I wonder, that would have been the perfect time. He could have sent like a couple angels, wipe out the Nazi armies. There's photographs. We have telegrams at that time. Would have been grand. Whole world would probably end up believing God that way. And I'm just wondering what happened there.
Yeah, that's an excellent question.
None of us have the answer as to why God didn't intervene there, just like I don't have the answer as to why God didn't intervene here on April 30th. But I know why I don't know why. I'm finite, He's infinite. And it wouldn't even be evil, the Holocaust, or the murder that took place here, the murders that took place here, unless there was a standard of good. The very reason we're upset about the Holocaust and what took place here is because we know people are inherently valuable. They're not valuable just because I think they're valuable. They're valuable because they're made in the likeness and image of God, and if God doesn't exist, we're just molecular machines. So why worry about 6 million Jews dying if we're just molecular machines?
So the whole question doesn't even need to take into account of that. My question is just about, so he was willing to wipe out armies back then, and he couldn't do it now when they're crawling over each other, begging God in the gas chambers. That's basically it. I'm not even accounting that.
Well, remember, the Old Testament is the story of the chosen people getting in the chosen land to bring forth the chosen Messiah to save the whole world. But there are also times in the Old Testament when God didn't stop the Babylonian army, when God didn't stop the Assyrian army, when Jeremiah is lamenting in the book of Lamentations that the mothers in Jerusalem had to resort to eating their own children to survive. Most of the time, God doesn't intervene directly. He did so in certain occasions because He's bringing forth the promised people in the promised land, but a lot of times He doesn't.
Yeah, in Jerusalem a few weeks ago, I sat with a man that his job, he's the general controller of the claims conference. He's about $90 billion that the German government has paid in reparations and restitution and stolen property. So I work 𝗦𝗢𝗕𝗦𝗢𝗕, people on the board there, which is a Holocaust memorial there in Jerusalem. I spend a lot of time with the Jewish people who deal with this question. What they would quickly say is that there was something stopped, that though there was this extermination of people, that there was a deliverance. Something stopped. In other words, what was going to happen was going to be at a far wider scale than even that was the beginning to show. And so what they see is, yes, it was horrible. They would say to you, if the Jewish people that I know and work with would say to you, they would say this was an expression of what really man is capable of. We want to see what God's capable of, but what about us? Well, how deep does this evil potential run? And we just got a glimpse of that. We just got a glimpse of that. So that's not, it's interesting how we immediately turn on God of why didn't you stop it? Though it did stop. Though it could have been far, that was just the beginning. That would have just been the beginning of other nations and other just mass exterminations. But the question is, what is this like the Adolf Eichmann that was tried in Nuremberg? I filmed the special in Nuremberg at the Human Rights Memorial there, where they pledged never again to see these basic human rights violated. But yet Adolf Eichmann, who was the architect of that, when a Jewish man went in the very famous trial and he looked at Adolf Eichmann and he realized, and he wrote in his memoirs, he said, I saw Eichmann and I realized that Eichmann is in all of us. Eichmann is in all of us. There's something inside of all of us that maybe it doesn't express itself in that kind of drastic way yet, but there's something inside of us, inside of you, inside of me, that God has to touch?
I absolutely agree that, people are not inherently so good. I'm just, I can't reconcile, like clear-cut examples of God answering prayers, but then the second it's like, heavily televised world news, such a vivid, well-documented example, perfect example, people are just begging him by name, it's just, I can't.
Jonas, God doesn't want us to believe in him. Does that sound a little crazy? Yeah, it does. Let me put it another way. God doesn't want us to believe that he exists. He wants us to trust in him. Do you know that Jesus of Nazareth didn't just heal, raised Lazarus from the dead? And what did Caiaphas say immediately after that? This guy's the Messiah. No. He said, it's better than one innocent man die than all of Israel go down. In other words, the reason Jesus was killed is because he claimed to be God, blasphemy to the Jews, sedition to the Romans, and he spoke truth to power. And the temple priests didn't want him to be the Messiah because they wanted to do their own thing. Jesus was bad for business. And I submit to you that every one of us in this room is capable of suppressing the truth if it's inconvenient. And we do, don't we? I submit to you that if we lived in Nazi Germany, most of us would have happily been Nazi guards. We'd have justified it in our own minds. Because if we resisted, we'd be killed. We're just going to go through with it. In fact, people who have researched genocide, without exception, every one of the researchers says that the people, as Rice just said, who committed genocide were normal, everyday people.